I guess I'm going to do something kind of uncharacteristic and pop off a hot take.
Alright, so obviously plenty of y'all that follow me are up on current events. I'm not talking about COVID or police brutality or anything else that's going on in the real world, right? I'm speaking to digital discourse. Now, of course, plenty of you have seen a certain video where I call out a certain cartoon reviewer over a certain video series. Pretty popular video. Hopefully in a year I can yoink its status for my own and a cool original project or something, but in the meantime, a fair amount of y'all ask me if I can tackle some other videos or point me to his other work, and let me just say, I have no desire to get into it. I see the takes, I watch the videos, I read the journals when they were still up anyway. I can assure you that plenty of other people do too. I just don't want to deal with this shit. Initially, I kind of imagined if you could one-and-done discourse on cartoon reviews, then, why not? I figured I'd only break that mandate if the subject became dangerous or hazardous, and honestly, even when that shit got dangerous, I became even more uninterested in touching it. I don't even think this should be an issue. I'm siding with y'all. Alright, I'm not on some...
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Type stuff, but more like...
Before you go and do something you've never done before, you just better know what you're jumping into.
I don't blame y'all for asking, though. Of course, someone that makes a 2-hour video looks like they care a whole lot, right? But anyway, this guy, quite understandably, has been imploding in on himself since the pandemic has holed us up and shut everything down. The political content lineup grows, the social circles groan and air out their woes, and the cycle continues on for whoever shall know. I saw this thing was released about a week ago, considering that it seems to largely hit on the same issues hit on in those journals, but seemingly, right, more nuanced. Plenty of people were not happy. Plenty were generally interested, and I'm sure more agreed with the message, but the typical dissidents were rolling in their non-existent graves. And the resounding hullabaloo prompted this tweet. If you're wondering whether or not you've heard this before, you probably have, but that's not something that needs to be immortalized in this video. Anyway, this whole kind of thing was something I glanced over the night it popped up and went to bed thinking nothing of it, but once I woke up and looked at it some more, it actually was something to think about. It made me kind of uncomfortable that this is a thing we feel and need to ask. Well, obviously this is in response to a whole bunch of other dumb shit happening at once. This, in a metaphorical or even concrete sense, is a very, very weird take to make. Now here's the thing. The cartoon community, whatever you decide to call it, is an ever-changing idea of a super fandom involving the aforementioned community of people who like talking about or watching cartoons. Some only mean the cartoon creators, some only mean the content creators, some only mean fans, but it's irrelevant right now because every one of them are sucked into this one giant supergroup. Plenty in those first and second categories are looked at as heroes or any other flattering but inflated term of endearment used to single them out. Their deeds could range from introducing one to a new show, all the way up to saving one's life through their content. But sometimes, a small deed like the former can feel much more like the latter, or indirectly become such.
But a great artist can come from anywhere.
I can't become a hero right away, so I'm gonna learn how. One step at a time.
Don't underestimate us! Force your way down a path you choose to take and do it all yourself!
The implications of their work can have ripple effects that extend out for a while, and in a way, fandoms of figures can have farther-reaching implications on the populace. That's kind of where we're at. The reviewer cited this outfit as largely expanded and upgraded from where they were 3 years ago, possibly for videos like this that clown on and condemn them for their past bullshit, which is totally fair. Despite that, the wider implications of certain people being out and about does indirectly influence other people's views on them. I'm sure plenty of people are like, what kind of shit-ass community hasn't been able to keel haul Mr. Enter already? Why don't they cancel him already? Where's the backlash? Even though, in many ways, he's kind of already done that to himself. I've seen plenty of people drag former associates of a person back into conversations because of that one video 7 years ago, when in reality they haven't spoken to them for longer. I've seen plenty of people dream up elaborate scenarios for collaborations because the two people just happen to like the same show, and oh boy, wouldn't that be fun. And I've seen plenty of people shoot down a whole region's worth of content over one dud. This is perhaps more literalized by a populace that is taught to espouse or analyze opinions in a certain way. So you have to think about the implications of heroes. What do? Save the day, right? That precedent shifts from Batman to shit like Lion Guard, the presumed Avengers, and Lion King mashup we didn't know that we needed. Back in the day, heroes were just that. They were kind of animated objects that were able to curtail crime and enable justice. But of course, since they are a codified concept created by human beings, they have been updated with time. Heroes have been given more sides than a reflective dodecagon. Like, they're allowed to sit and reflect upon their ideals and whatnot. That is deep, bro. They grow and change and adapt in ways that often go unnoticed to the average admirer or townsperson. They may change their ideals, they may alter their worldview, they may even switch tack and turn over a new leaf, but usually, people do have set expectations for them regardless. Different interpretations exist. People will always argue whether or not Batman killing people is valid. Once that image is there, it's quite hard to kill. Obviously, plenty of people will adapt their point of views to accommodate a new hero of sorts, but the wider implications of them will remain for a while. Quite possibly permanently. So again, in the context of a gaggle of tangible human beings that are motivated to discuss animated media, this is an interesting thing to propose. Think about this. The idea of such a cartoon community is not that tangible, but it is, bare minimum, a baseline fandom. Fandoms, unbeknownst to many who flippantly vilify the idea of them, do in fact change. Fandoms grow, they evolve and adapt to varying circumstances. They are not a hive mind, but as a collective they can act as one unit in certain circumstances. As disjointed as this is, the cartoon community is just another version of that. They continue to grow and evolve in many ways, but a lot of stagnant perceptions remain. Outside looking in, the cartoon community will continue to grow, but the heroes they try to deify will not. A lot of cartoon reviewers have a lot more going on behind the scenes than most would care to think about, and that's usually okay. As long as you don't forget that they have humanity, I don't really expect you to pontificate upon what Cosmodor had for breakfast today.
Pause. What the fuck?
Plenty are, still young adults. The oldest that people know of are not even the age of these guys yet. They're going to change. That's just what humans do. Not only do their opinions change, but their personalities may shift. Your perception of them is just that, a perception. It is non-canonical. Don't try to pop that shit on the real wiki.
Yeah, that was corny.
Pause. What the fuck?
Now, I don't mean to call y'all out. Many are pretty good about keeping that in check, and I'd hope that if I do become of prominence one day, they'd be able to foster an audience that can hear that and at least reflect upon their actions. I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking to this idea. Even though I'm technically speaking to you while I'm speaking to this idea, because everything changes once you introduce the idea of the hero. Heroes don't change. They grow and adapt like humans, but perhaps because they seemingly still save the day in the end. The perception largely doesn't change either. This comes at the detriment of not only those imaginary characters we dream up, but also at the people who make them. An insurmountable number of people deify celebrities and others till kingdom come, but when they put them on that pedestal, it only shows them in that light. When they do something that doesn't fit in that perception anymore, the situation can easily get hostile. That doesn't mean they have to do something big and terrible. Even making something unexpected can put people off.
I see this sometimes even in my own YouTube channel. I'm not arrogant enough to pretend that I have anything you could remotely call a fandom, but even I have people sub to me who occasionally will post these nasty comments acting like it's my goddamn job to create more Yahoo Answers videos. And I don't mean the people who are like, oh, these are funny, you should do more. That lots of people say stuff like that, that's fine. I appreciate that. But I mean, some people are just straight up fucking rude. Like, all your other videos are shit, dead channel, let's go, more pregnant, chop chop. Amuse me, peon. Like, whoa. Excuse me, your highness. Let me just get right on that for you. Don't get me wrong, I like the reading videos. They're fun to do, and I'm grateful for all the attention they get, but some of the reactions are just baffling.
Ah, yes. So is the nature of parasocial relationships. There's plenty of videos that have tackled this in much more depth than I can right now, but generally, heroes don't help. They just do what they want to do. If their actions start to be deified, then they become an obligation and they kill momentum for a lot of them. Sure, it can function as a short-term motivator for some, but after a while, the avocation becomes an obligation, and then after a while, it does start to weigh on people. That's part of the reason why people burn out on this platform.
Nearly every single one of the first comments would always just be the obligatory, why aren't you making the content I want you to make? And it was hard to not kind of get bitter at that, because I understand that people subscribe because they want to see a certain kind of content, and I understand that I never officially ended the every episode of SpongeBob Reviewed series or Bottom of the Bakery or anything like that, but it's just like, when you're struggling to put these things together and you're still trying to do it, the last thing you want is to constantly be hounded when you're trying to do the very thing. The recast was the thing that was trying to hold my interest with cartoons and was trying to keep me focused and keep my channel alive by just uploading stuff on a regular basis. And to see that just kind of get trashed, it really just kind of, I don't know, it made me bitter, and it made me, just the difficulties I was having even more so.
I don't say this to mean you can't ever appreciate or hype up other creators. No, that is perfectly fine. It's less about doing it and more about how you're doing it. Frankly, if you can't help to have a shrine of the round table in your walk-in closet, then, well, whatever. Nobody should really know or care if you keep it to yourself, though.
I call on the power of thy sacred shrine, bastion of sanity in this crazy, mixed-up world in which we live. How tender I feel when you brush past me.
Just be cognizant of others' feelings on these things, because they do have them. If you proclaim that we gotta have a hero, it does kind of imply that there is a villain, right? Again, I disagree with this whole thing, like this mess that's going on, but to suggest that is not helping matters. So no, we do not need heroes. We need helpers.
Always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers, even just on the sidelines. Because if you look for the helpers, you'll know that there's hope.
These people that you seek to admire and shout out are there. You just have to look further. They are as human as the rest of us, and it'd be much more admirable to treat them as such. The spheres I'm in talk up trying to highlight underrated people all the time. Actually, I've been deemed as such plenty of times. Despite that, there's always going to be people who aren't in the know. When I replied under this original tweet, there were plenty of people who wanted to see people tackle more underrated series, and they didn't feel people did that. Why not fix that? Be the change that you want to see. I don't mean to preach, I doubt I'm as successful at that all the time myself. That being said, it's likely that carrying out these simple tasks make you feel much more like the hero that you'd like to see. I've long considered making a video about the Twitter cartoon community and how in many ways it's much like the reviewers were a few years ago. Calling it as one sees it can mean something, but to keep trudging forward to set an example is a whole other level. Keep moving forward, and you will eventually forge a path.
So yeah, I don't really know how to end this. Obviously, I kind of put this together on the fly. I don't know. Stop buying Harry Potter stuff. Donkey Kong says trans rights. Good night.